Okay, if you go to the support site for my podcast is thecrashcast.com, but since I don't have total control over that website, it's hosted by somebody else. I have a support site for the podcast that's called allthingscrash.com. If you go to allthingscrash.com and you look in the downloads section, there is a section under downloads called Multi-Rotor files. And if you go in there, you'll find the QSC TriCopter templates. And if you print those off, you're going to get, unfortunately, the software that I used forced me to have some blank pages. There shows to be 8 pages in that PDF. In all actuality, you only need to print pages 2, 3, 6, and 7. And they will print out to give you a template set. Now, a couple of notes on that PDF. First thing you want to do, the way the file is set up, when you go to print the PDF, set your printer to borderless because that allows everything to print all the way out to the edge. Set your printer to borderless. Set it to where you have a dialog box before you print. You have a thing that asks you for page scaling. Set page scaling to none. And if you do that, you'll get 4 accurate 8.5 by 11 printouts. And here, what I've done is I've taken those 4 printouts and I've basically edge joined them to give us a full sheet here. Now, I've also cut down all the excess material from the pages that I joined together. But I think if you've built a foamy before, then you know what we're doing here. But once you have that printed out, you might even consider printing out 2 sets of them. That's what I've done here. One for reference, and then one finally for templates. Now, again, like I say, you can position your templates onto your wood in such a way that you can probably minimize your cutting and so forth. Let's see here. You can affix that paper template. I just use this. Smear a little of this on the back of my paper and then stick it down to my wood. If you use a little, then the template will peel right back up when you're done, and it doesn't, you don't have paper stuck there forever. So that works good. It's just a little glue stick. Just use it sparingly. You don't need a whole lot because you'd like to be able to pull that template back up again. Now finally, you're going to see a lot of lines on here with this template. This is the fuselage piece, the main fuselage piece. And if you read on here, it says fuselage x2 times 2. That means you need to cut out 2 pieces for your framework, 2 fuselage pieces. We have N1, which stands for, N2, which stands for nose 2, and that's going to go here, once we cut out that piece. So you can position it where you want. You have, a couple of others. You've got N1, which is the little nose piece, and that wood piece is going to glue to here once we get everything cut out. And we've got 2 front braces, and front brace X2 times 2, and those are going to go here when we get everything cut out. They're going to glue there. And we've got some landing gear. Now, you don't have to use landing gear like I'm using. I just put together an inexpensive, very easy to do landing gear. And it works real well. It's lightweight and it's very effective because you want to be able to land the thing and not belly it in. We'll talk more about that later. Anyway, cut out all your templates and just position everything down and cut it all out. Now, I mentioned to you before why you might want to use light ply over standard ply. And the reason is once you have this template glued down, you can take a straight edge and line it up, and then you can use just a razor, that's what I use, or an X-Acto blade, and you can cut right through that light ply. Light ply has a tendency to, you're not going to cut it in one pass. It's thick. It's going to take a little bit of work there. But if you have to cut these things out by hand, just make several passes until you get all the way through. And that's pretty much it. You'll need to cut out this center circle. Now, you need to cut it out on both fuselage pieces because that's where wires are going to pass through. Coming up through the top for our flight stabilization system and going down through the bottom for our power harness to go into our battery. So you'll cut that out. I've also got here a couple of slots noted. The only places that you're going to cut out here are the center circle, top and bottom. These slots here on each side, those says slots cut out for Velcro straps. Those are the Velcro straps that are going to help you to hold your battery onto this thing when you're flying it. And those are really the only things you have to cut out of it. Now before you pull your template back off to use it to cut out your second piece, you'll note there are 6 little bolt holes. You'll want to drill those out for a size, and I don't remember what drill bit you want to use, but a size that you can pass your 440 screw through in the end. So you'll cut out the main piece, and then before you lift up your paper, cut out this center circle, cut out your Velcro battery straps, and then finally drill 6 holes, referencing here the holes on the template for your arm holes, or your bolt holes that are going to hold the arms on. And once you get those all cut out, you're ready to prep your 3/4 inch square dowel for the arms. Okay, now we're going to talk about the 3/4 inch sticks. The first thing you want to do before you cut these to length, and I would show you this, but I've already cut mine down and I don't have any more. Before you cut these to length, I want you to drill a hole in the center here. And I think I've got that showing up on camera. What I've done is I've taken my straight edge and corner to corner I've drawn a line. And then on the opposite corners, corner to corner, I've drawn a line. And they're a little crooked there, but that gave me the center point of the dowel. And then from here, you can take and use a 1/4 inch bit. You may want to start with a smaller bit so it helps you to center up. But take a 1/4 inch bit and drill right in the center. Now you want to get this as plumb as possible to the stick. And the reason you want to do that is because when we slide this axle in for our pivot control, we don't want it to be crooked. Now if you do find it to be crooked, that's okay, because just work your drill bit and waller that hole out beyond a 1/4 inch. Because then that gives you room to pull up or down or left and right to get it straight. But that's the first cut that you want to make, or the first thing you want to do to your stick before you cut it is you want to drill that hole. The reason that we want to do that first is if you totally screw it up, you come out the side or whatever, then just cut that off and start over, because we've got enough wood with our 2 36 inch lengths or our 1 48 inch length to just cut that off and it's a waste piece, and then start over. Do that first. And again, you want that hole to be a little bigger, not much, but a little bigger than a 1/4 inch, because we're actually going to take our shaft and smear some glue on here and put it in and let it set, because that'll hold it in. Now once you have that hole accurately drilled, and you may mess up a time or two, that's okay, but once you have that done, now you're going to cut that piece with a hole. You're going to cut it 12 inches long. So measure back, cut it 12 inches. And then set that piece aside, use your remaining material, and cut 2 14 inch lengths. And I'm moving kind of fast here because I want to keep the video short, but once you have your 14 inch pieces cut and your single 12 inch piece cut with the hole drilled in the end of it, go ahead and drill yourself or cut yourself 2 2 inch lengths. And these are going to serve as the part of the yaw control. So cut those and set those aside. Now, on each of the sticks, starting with the 12 inch length that has our hole in it, on the opposite side, measure in 3/4 inch, make yourself a line, and drill yourself a hole through here. And this hole can be a little bit bigger than the 440 screw will need to be. You can see I've got that one, I don't even remember, I think that may even be an 1/8 inch, but it can be a little bigger, that's okay. It gives us room to kind of make adjustments after we got the bolts in there. So you'll go in 3/4 inches from the end, opposite the hole we drilled, and then from that point you'll go in from this hole to this hole is 3 3/4 inches, and that's what matches our holes on our top and bottom frames. So once you've got that drilled, set it aside, pick up your 14 inch pieces and do the same thing. Come in 3/4 inch from the end. Of course, it doesn't matter which end you use here because we don't have a hole drilled. Come in 3/4 inch, pop you a hole straight through, and then from that hole 3 3/4 inch, pop you another one. And those sticks are prepared. Now for our 2-inch pieces, this one's kind of a fun one. From our 2-inch pieces, you want to take one of them, and again, we've drawn corner to corner, corner to corner, found our center part of this 2-inch piece, then pop a hole. Now if you look closely there, you'll see I'm a little off. That's okay. This hole will need to be 5/16. You'll need to use your 5/16 drill. And you want to drill that as straight as you can, 90 degrees to the surface, as perpendicular as possible and as center as possible. Once you get that hole drilled, you should make sure that your shoulder bushing is going to fit in there. Just like that. And I dropped the washer. Okay? Now, at this point, you want to drill your other one. And what I found to be the easiest way, I've got a drill press, but I did not use a drill press on this to pull this off. What I did was I put these two pieces together, the one that I'd already drilled, and I made sure they were nice and, you know, the same all the way around, and then I put them in a clamp. And then I used my drill to come down using this first hole as a reference to go right through the second hole. Now, if you get these things a little bit off, don't worry about it because you can waller them out a little bit open. The goal is to be able to pass your bushing and your shaft through there, and then put a bushing. Let's see here, I got these right. I made a line so I could be sure to have them the same. Put your other bushing through there, and you should be able to sit them flat. And that's what I've got right there. That yaw control will sit flat to my table. And if you have to, open those holes up a little bit to give yourself a little room. And if you end up with a little wiggle in there, I've got a little bit in there. You know, just put a little glue on the outside of that bushing, not in the hole where our axle is going to be, but a little on the outside to lock it into place. And that concludes the prepping of our parts for this build.